Well, hey everybody, it's Sandy and welcome back to my channel dedicated to helping you advocate for your own health one topic at a time. So today I just want to discuss one of the most commonly asked questions both in my YouTube comments and in the Facebook group, and it is, what is my favorite mask? Spoiler alert, it's impossible for me to answer. I don't have one favorite mask, and even if I did, I don't think it's really relevant to what other people should buy because so much of this is based on personal preference. So I've decided that I will do a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to refer back to a video I did a while ago, which I always refer to when I answer these questions on the channel. That is how to choose the best mask for you. I'm going to link that video right here. What I tried to do in that video is create sort of a mental flow chart where you think about your circumstances. And from there, you decide what kind of mask you need to buy. And after you figure out what kind of mask you need, then you can determine which one you want in any individual category. And those of you who are familiar with my channel know that I've broken down masks into a continuum, and they fit into categories along the continuum, on one end being high-tech textiles, another extreme end being the fabric masks that are just all about the fabric and the blockage. And in the middle are something I call hybrid masks, where they will meet the criteria for the fabric mask, but they also have some sort of high-tech antimicrobial technology in them. Now, of those three kinds of masks, only the fabric masks are in a category for which there is a standard, and therefore we can compare any given mask against that standard. I will also link a video in which I talked about that. It's about what I look for in a fabric mask. I'm going to link that right here. I said at that time that as opposed to what the World Health Organization or the CDC was saying, I don't look for just any fabric in the middle. I look for polypropylene. Recently, the CDC came out and said that they also recommend polypropylene. So yay, I'm glad that we finally got to the same place. Now, one thing I really try to do on this channel when I give a mask review is be as objective as I can. So I do subject a mask to particular tests. I do some water drop tests. I do some crude water testing, a match test. I also look at how it works in terms of fogging with my goggles. That's really individual because it really depends a lot on the shape of your face, the shape and the weight of your glasses and things like that. So it's very difficult for me. I bat about 500 with that. When I make a recommendation as to what's best for fogging, I'd say half the people come back and say, yeah, thank you, that was a great option. And other people say, well, that fogs for me, even though it didn't for you. So I really find that that one is a very tough one to tackle. But the point is, I try to look at certain criteria about the masks so that we can compare them as apples and apples. And I don't really look at this like, here's my favorite mask or here's the one best mask. I don't think there is actually. I think just like you don't have only one pair of shoes, I think it makes sense to have more than one kind of mask. You have shoes for hiking. Those aren't the same shoes you're going to wear when you play tennis, for example. And I think the same thing is true with masks, depending on whether you find yourself in different kinds of circumstances on different days. Again, I do not wear the same mask for taking a walk outside as I will if I have to go into a hospital, for example. And I think that's one of the reasons that breaking these masks into categories has been really helpful, because you can figure out what category you need and then from there figure out what mask is going to be best for you. Now, within the individual categories, I do have my favorites. I'm happy to share those. I have to tell you, I cringe a little bit because anytime I come out with something new, if it's fantastic, if I find something really wonderful, then the first question that I get asked, it's all over the Facebook group page where people say, well, now do you like that one better than this one? And if they're in two different categories, probably not. So an example of that is the DNA mask, which I reviewed recently. I'm going to link that review right here. I think that is a fantastic fabric mask. It is a fabric mask only. It does not contain any kind of high-tech textile. Well, the first thing people asked me in the Facebook page was, well, do you like that one better than the Everbrand? And really these are very different masks. The Everbrand has some antimicrobial technology. So there's a lot of determination based on which characteristics of a mask you value the most. And that might be different than for me. Let me just come up with an analogy to make the point. Before I buy a new car, I always look at Consumer Reports. Now, Consumer Reports breaks down their cars into all different categories. So you can look at, luxury cars, you can look at compact cars, medium-sized, large cars, you can look at them by size, you can look at them by how their gas mileage is, you can look at all different things. They rate the crash data on the cars, they look at the repair records for the various models and manufacturers. They look at all kinds of things, and what one person puts a high priority on might be different than what I prioritize. So for example, I find that when Consumer Reports comes down to saying, here's their number one car in this category, and this is what they recommend, it looks to me like they are putting a lot of weight on the fuel economy. And while I don't argue that that's important, I put a lot more weight on the crash data. So I'm more inclined to buy a car that doesn't perform as well in terms of its fuel economy if it has much better data in terms of its crash statistics. Well, the same thing's going to be true for masks. So like I said, some people will tell me that, fogging is the number one priority. That's just like such an issue for them. They really don't want any fog. And that might take such a priority that what would be third or fourth on my list might be first on theirs, because this particular mask is the only one that they can use without having trouble with fogging. Another matter of personal preference is how comfortable are you with the metals in the high-tech textiles, with the zinc, with the copper, with the silver. So I did a video a while back and I said that for me personally, I'm not comfortable with nano silver, but I am comfortable with the other technologies. Now that's not true for everybody. I think the jury's out on some of this stuff. I think that we're going to learn more as time goes on, and maybe I'll end up surprised. So if I were to come along and say, oh, the Everbrand is my all-around favorite mask, how helpful is that going to be to people? There's also comfort level. Now, some people have asked me, what's the most comfortable mask? To me, the most comfortable mask I wear is probably the Synovia. I don't wear that Synovia mask in every circumstance. I think we might find out down the road that it's perfectly fine to do so. I don't live in an area where everybody's wearing masks. That's a whole other discussion. It's a tangent. But suffice it to say that what I find the most comfortable isn't what I find is the most appropriate for certain circumstances when I'm using it. So I find the Synovia to be super comfortable. But I hear from some people on the Facebook page or sometimes in the comments section here, I got the Synovia and I feel like it's really scratchy or it's super hot or, whatever it might be. So there's just a lot of individual likes and dislikes. And I just feel that I would be doing a disservice if I said, here's like my number one mask pick, because inevitably that's not going to line up with a lot of other people's priorities. It's not going to be everyone's favorite. So I would rather just talk about the empirical issues with each mask and recognize that with all kinds of individual priorities that people are going to have to choose for themselves. What I will do is tell you what my personal favorites are in any given category. And I think that would be a lot more helpful than being able to discern, like, this is my very favorite mask overall, because the truth is I do not have one. So I will go through the individual categories of masks and tell you currently what's my favorite. Now that doesn't mean I'm not going to find something else to review in the next, week or 2 weeks or something, and then something gets replaced. And this is just me. So I've already said I think the most comfortable mask for me, I think it's just because it's so lightweight, is the Synovia. I just, especially like their original, they come in colors now, and I showed that. I like this nose piece being that it's extra long. I can conform it to my cheek and it sits still, it doesn't move. It's just so thin. Now, that's the same reason that I don't wear it in certain circumstances. This is something I'll wear in a minimal risk setting. Even though it has this profoundly antimicrobial high-tech textile, it performs better than I think any other antimicrobial textile that I've reviewed. But it doesn't meet any of the criteria for the fabric mask. It's not a hybrid and it's not a fabric mask. It's the high-tech textile only. And while, based on what I see with the testing they've shared with us, it looks like it's excellent, I personally choose that in more risky settings to have both the antimicrobial technology as well as having the criteria met for the fabric mask. Now, sometimes that means I will take a fabric mask and layer it under the Synovia. That's fine, and then I have both. Or sometimes that might mean I'd use a hybrid. And I talked about in that video about how to choose a mask as well. I talked about that you can layer or you can get a hybrid. Now, I don't think it's any secret that in the category of hybrid masks, my favorite is the Everbrand. I really think this is very similar to the Aeropak, and if it weren't for the fact that Aeropak comes from the UK and I'm in the US, I might say that the Aeropak was my favorite because I really like that one too. I don't see a whole lot of difference. I think this one is 4 layers and theirs is 3, but it's just cost prohibitive, the shipping, when you compare it. These come in a pack of 3. They're very reasonable. They give you extra nose pieces in here. And by the way, guys, I've had a lot of people write to me, oh, I got an Everbrand order. It came in and there's no nose pieces in any of the masks. Yeah, you got to look down into the package. And everything comes in this viral off bag. This fabric bag is treated with the viral off technology, and in there you'll have a little plastic bag with these nose pieces in them. So they have, each mask has a sleeve, and so the nose piece can be removed for when you wash it, and then it can be replaced if it breaks, which I think is just a really nice thing. I like that they offer this bag. It's now their technology is 2 hours in order to eliminate 99% of the microbial load. So it's not quite as quick as Synovia's, but I think that's perfectly sufficient if you're going to take the mask off for a while, leave it in this bag for 2 hours and put it back on, and I don't worry about it. As long as the surface that you need sanitized is in contact with this bag, you are essentially sanitizing that surface without washing it. Now, for that reason, whenever I'm done using an Everbrand mask, I make sure that mask is in this bag alone so that I can leave it unfolded, and both sides, the innermost side and the outermost side, are both in contact with the inside fabric of the bag. Now, incidentally, you can use the Everbrand bag to sanitize other things as well. So if you have other masks, like a plain fabric mask that doesn't have any antimicrobial technology, you can put it in this bag for a couple hours. I just really like that I have this bag. Now, they say that the antimicrobial technology lasts, if you ask Polygene, they say 30 washes. If you ask Everbrand, there it says 15. I think it's somewhere in between, and I don't think it's not like a light switch where it turns off all at one time, right? It probably starts to break down at some point, and by 30 washes, you can bet that you don't have it anymore. If you wash it in hot or more agitated, like rougher cycles, it's probably going to break down sooner, but the bag doesn't get washed, right? So I think, I don't know how long it lasts, but I suspect the antimicrobial activity lasts a very long time with this bag, and for that reason alone, I really like having these masks because I'll use the bag for other things. And then finally, we come to the plain old fabric mask category, which until recently, I think my favorite was the Starks mask. And I still think that's a really good mask. But recently I reviewed the DNA mask. This is actually a new one that I got. This is in a denim. The denim one was on sale. So I just decided when they created the coupon code Sandy10, I decided I was going to buy some more. So this mask, if you haven't had a chance to watch the review I did on it, I really recommend you watch that. This mask held up to like extreme crude water testing. This mask was amazing. I think the fit is great. It gives you the benefit of the ear loops with the connecting elastic strap where they're connected together behind your head, so you get more the fit precision of the head strap style with only one strap. It is contoured around the chin with the elastic. This mask was developed by a fellow nurse anesthetist just like me. I didn't know about that. I learned it by accident when I started to explore the product. But she used a trilaminate polypropylene in here, which is just a super polypropylene. I think that the one nice thing about plain old fabric masks is you can assess their integrity, unlike antimicrobial textile, which you can't really see or know for sure whether it's still working. Something that is relying on a heavy-duty polypropylene, you can still subject it to crude water testing like I did in the video and see when it's starting to break down. Now, this one is a little bit more expensive than the Starks mask, but I gotta say, I am very impressed with this product, and my hat is off to the developer of this product. And I think now that the CDC has recommended polypropylene, which even though I've recommended that all along, I think this company is going to be very well positioned. Another thing I like about this is something that I did not like in the past when I reviewed the Living Guard mask. I found that the elastic fit at the bottom that's meant to conform to the chin, I found that forced a lot of leak up to the top, and so I couldn't wear my safety goggles or glasses without having a whole lot of fogging. I really didn't like that. And I had sworn off any mask that has that puckering at the bottom until I found this one. And this one does not have that problem. It gives me a really good fit with really minimal leak going up to the nose piece. So yeah, in summary, in case you haven't noticed, this is my new favorite among the fabric masks. That doesn't mean I'm not going to find something in a week. So nobody get mad at me in the Facebook group if I find something else I really like. So, you know, what I'm really trying to do here is tell you what I like and what I don't like about them. And that way you can figure out what might be best for you. It's not going to be the same for everybody. So I know the next question that's going to come up in the Facebook group is, what would I wear under a very high risk setting? What do I think is ideal right now? Like, would I wear the Everbrand, or would I maybe layer these? I've got to say, I'm really surprised with my answer. I think for everyday stuff, the Everbrand is great. It's the jack of all trades. It really is. And I think it works in just about every setting. This is what I wear if I have to like go to the store, if I have to, just about anything. This is the standard go-to mask that I'll use. If I were finding myself in a very high risk situation, if I had to go into see somebody, let's say at a hospital, if I had to go to an airport, I really think that I would do this combination. I think I would do the DNA mask and the synovia. I haven't found myself in a situation like that recently, but as soon as I do, I hope I don't, but if I do, I'll let you know how that works out. I think maybe I'll go ahead and do that anyway, just wear it around like this. I predict that it's not going to be the most comfortable combination. So that's the next thing. I'm not saying that I recommend that for people to use every day if they don't need to, if you're not finding yourself in that kind of a setting. Because I think that, first of all, this one it's heavy. It's got that trilaminate polypropylene. It's practically waterproof. It's a great mask, but there's a price that comes along with that. Some people are going to use the word breathable and say it's not that breathable. I find any mask breathable. I'm not really worried about that, but this is maybe a heavier fit than something like the Everbrand. And now if you're going to layer something on top of it, if you're really sensitive to something like heat, that's going to be a problem. Myself, I don't see myself doing that all the time. It's just something I thought of that I think would be ideal for a particularly risky setting where I would just kind of suck it up and deal with the discomfort of layering this much. So let me know if this was helpful. I don't think this question is going to stop coming my way. I'm just going to kind of keep answering it the same way. I know that nobody's trying to be difficult or redundant. I'm sure there's new viewers or new members to the Facebook group and people ask this, but admittedly, that when I did the video on how to choose a mask, since then I have reviewed other masks that, of course, I didn't mention in there because I didn't know about them yet. So this is always changing. Let's hope that we can get to the point where we have our lives back sometime soon, and at some point we're going to stop talking about all these masks. I don't think that's in the near future, but hopefully sometime soon, in the foreseeable future. Let me know if you found this helpful, and if you have any questions, comments, feedback, and until next time, be well. Bye-bye.